Howdy do, everyone. It's welcome to streaming live from our living room. It is Mrs. Comic's birthday eve. Special live stream tonight. The only thing that makes it different than other live streams is I didn't want to stream on her actual birthday tomorrow. So I don't really have a Mrs. Comic birthday themed show planned. So that tells you how much of a dumbass I am. But I have all kinds of exciting news, not the least of which is I'm about ready to, let's see, you probably won't be able to see it. I'm about ready to hatch a Pokemon Go egg. I'll do it live. It's one of the eggs you get from friends. It's the yellow with the almost pinkish purple dots. And sometimes it's disappointing because I get excited about hatching an egg and then I get something stupid. Yeah, see, that's kind of stupid. I got a quillfish, but it's going to be a really good quillfish because it is hatched. But I have good quill. And it's not the kind of thing I could give to Mrs. Comic, even though she plays Pokemon Go. I can't really gift her a Pokemon Go egg. Actually, sometimes I can when we send each other gifts in the Pokemon Go app. Sometimes it's an egg, so there you go. Richter coming in with the happy birthday bucks. That's fantastic. Also, shout out to Clee's sister and Kevin Keller, all jumping birthday gifts on Mrs. Comic and Amy G. If she's in the house, send us a fun package. So we are going to rock this thing tonight. I believe a lot has been going on besides Mrs. Comic's birthday. I've been busy booking work. I don't want to jinx it, but I also want to acknowledge it today. I was going to take around and get stuff ready for tonight's live stream, but I had confirmation on 3 different shows. So I thought, well, I'll just write them up and get them suckers going. So I'm excited about that. One is Soul Joel's Comedy Club in Pottstown. Pottsville is up, Pottstown is down. I've been this way and that way with that guy for years and years and years, and we couldn't agree on the money. And I have a kind of a straightforward deal now. And I rejected his offer, and I said I just do this deal now, pretty much a 50-50 split. And he's like, okay. So that was bizarre to have him go from a kind of a not a really great offer to just giving me what I want. So there's that, and I booked a vineyard out in the middle of nowhere for July. I'm very excited. I will be returning to Kutztown in September. I had packed them in Kutztown. I haven't been there for years to perform, mostly because the fire hall that I love rents by the hour like a prostitute would rent a room on a flop house on 42nd Street. That gets to be an expensive night renting the room by an hour. But this is a fundraiser for Kutztown Fire and Rescue at September, whenever the heck it is. I don't really know. And let me get you caught up here a teeny tiny little bit. This past Tuesday, I had a show in the morning in a church on the other side of Lancaster for geezers who I love. It's a term of endearment. I PG-13'd it. I actually am quite proud of myself. I didn't drop any F bombs, and I haven't dropped any now yet because the, the YouTube police flag language early on in the first 30 seconds to a minute. If I drop an F bomb, then it gets flagged, and they'll find these F bombs later on in the show when I leak them out. But so now apparently I do have a PG-13 show with tamed down language is really taking the F bombs out, which is kind of silly because when you get to be a geezer, you think you'd be cursing more of all the shit that you've seen and put up with. So I'm going to be trying to book more Tuesday morning shows for my senior citizens far and near. That was exciting. And let's see here now. I've got my notebook here. Mary's crying around here somewhere. She's in full drama queen mode. Let's see here. I mostly got notes. I had all this stuff I want to talk about. When I go out to a show, people ask me where she is. Like like right away. It's a thing. She has fans, and in the Harrisburg Club, there's actually a big killer bouncer bodyguard who's supposed to take care of me. But the first thing he wants to know is where is Big Mama. That's what he calls her. That's not my what I call her. That's what he calls her. And when there's somebody who's really anxious for her to come, and he worked there, I mostly make her stay home then because that's too weird of a thing. And then I've streamlined the shows. I'm gonna sound like a real sexist douchebag, but I've streamlined how I invite her to come along to my shows. If I know a place is gonna be scary, no way. If I've never been there and it seems like it might be scary, then no way. So mostly theater shows, Arts Quest, Sellersville Theater. The theater shows are safe. There's a green room. It's nice, nice atmosphere. So as you know, I've been trying to get work in places at the top of the pandemic. The my Wisecracker Club out of State College completely shut down, never really reopened for me. So the big search to get a venue in State College finally happened at the Bull Barn Playhouse, a historic theater just one stone's throw away from actual State College. It's the next town over. So I was very excited about this small theater. I love the little theaters, and this was a classic old theater, 120 seats. And the day of the show, the gal who booked me said, "Please send a social media post out to the people who have tickets to remind them that it is a barn and there's limited heat." I think that's how the email said it. There's limited heat and people should dress accordingly. Now, this is in March and it was about fucking 37 degrees. Uh, I thought they were kidding. And then, so I was freaking out and I didn't know they didn't really have heat. And then the gal said, "Well, we're going to be running heaters in there all day." So they kind of did, but that was stupid. I hate to mock them because I love the theater. It just was really fucking cold. So if this is the theater, right? Okay. And the seats go around here, and I'm here. That's all staged down. One of the theaters is surrounded by audience on three sides. They had the heaters on the floor pointing at me. But I didn't want fucking heat because I could run around and stay warm. So the audience was sitting in blankets. They did have blankets donated because it's a theater and they'll take all the free shit they can get. And so they actually made announcements that blankets were coming in as we pulled in to this beautiful old barn. Mrs. Comic said, "I hope they have bathrooms." And that turned out to be a thing to be concerned about because they already accepted the idea that men could piss in the bushes behind what might be concession stand in nicer weather. And the ladies' room, I was told there'd be like a little shuttle bus that would run down to the main office and take people in there. I didn't think that was a big deal, but it turns out there that it was really fucking cold in there. It was really cold. It was Mrs. Comic that had coats on, and they wanted her to come sit in the office. No, she's gonna. I think she was gonna. I think I might have streamed that live. I streamed that live, and she had an adventure separate from me, and I had a wonderful night because I mean, I could stay warm, and it was kind of amazing. We had a shared experience that show will never happen again. That people survived a night in the cold, and they didn't. They all huddled up, and then when they had to pee, they zoom out, and then I had a lot of fun with that because it's a small theater and they had to run through the stage, and so we had some fun there. Well, Mrs. Comic, when the show wrapped up, she had sent me a text message that said, "I'm in the car," because I had to go to the bathroom and the show's over now, and so I'm warming up the car. So that story unfolds as that Mrs. Comic had to go down. This place was a gorgeous theater, but it was actually on like a dirt road, very rustic, uh, rocks on the road, little fields here in the forest, and up a teeny little hill. Mrs. Comic had to go out in the cold, in the dark, down a road to walk to the welcome center with basically no light except the light from her cell phone. And then a nice old man from the actual theater was going to show her where, because he was actually went into his car. That fucker was going into his car to get warm. That's what he was doing, to just go and sit and run the heat on. If I could do that again, I would take a heater break. We could have all just stopped and then gone out. So Mrs. Comic was going in the cold, in the dark, to find the ladies' room. And what she found was a dog. But what kind of dog was it? A big dog.
It was a German Shepherd.
A German Shepherd. Mrs. Comic found an unsupervised German Shepherd in the dark. And that's not really the kind of thing you want to find in the dark or have find you, even if it's with an owner. But there was no owner around. And then a lady magically appeared in a shawl like a ghoul, and it was her dog, and she opened up the tailgate of a car that Mrs. Comic couldn't see because it was sitting in the dark and it wasn't running, and the dog jumped up and went in the back of the station wagon, I think it was, and the lady said it like it was a normal thing. She said, if that ever happens again, she said this to Mrs. Comic while I was performing, thinking she was back there, in the chat like she is now. If that happens again, just open the door of this car and this German Shepherd will just go right in. So let that be a lesson for all of us, that if you ever meet a strange dog out in the world, especially a German Shepherd, and you're afraid, just open a car door and it will go in and you'll be safe, because the dogs like to take rides. So I guess that was the logic. So that was her excitement there. And Kevin Keller, that is why she was not at the Save the Cats show, because that was the week before, and it was really quite an experience. Yeah, it was enough to last her for this time of the year. So then the other fun thing is, I have the most amazing fans, of which you folks are them, but there's some more of you out there in the world. I have people who've been seeing my show forever. For like, I've been going out to State College for like 10, 15 years at least. And Peckerhead was there, and it was at the end of the show, and it was a guy, and he was like part of like 3 different couples that had come to see my show quite a bit. I'm gonna put his age around maybe 40-ish, somewhere in there, 40 couples, whatever. So he liked to get mocked, so he wanted to have, and I'm fucking freezing to death. I'm trying to get out of this show and into the car that's waiting for me. Mrs. Comic is traumatized by the German Shepherd and the cold, dark, and the night of the pea. So he wants to show me. I made a dick out of him. I did, but he asked for it, and his friends laughed. He says, "Hey, do you mind if I take your picture?" And that's a very polite thing to do when I'm there. No, that would be fine. And then I came over. He goes, "I want to show you something." I'm like, "Wait a minute. That's a foul. You didn't ask if you could show me something. You said, can you have your picture taken with me?" And I said, yes. And the next thing, you want to fucking show me something. That's why the whole theme of my show is women are smarter than men. That's kind of dumb shit guys pull off. So I called him out on it. And I even knew what he was wanting to show me. I said, I know that sound of wanting to show me something in your phone. It's a picture of me, isn't it? I don't want to see a picture of me. I see me every day. I know what I look like. I see me right now from a safer range, because Crenshaw said I was too close before and it got a little scary. So that is exactly what he had. He wanted to show me a picture of me and him in his phone from however many years ago. And I made a dick out of him there. You can take a new picture, but I really don't need to see the old picture, because I can imagine what it's like. It looks like you and me next to each other, much like this new picture will be, except we were younger then. So he was laughing, and he took the picture, and then the following week, I was way the hell out, kind of sort of in the same neighborhood, maybe half hour different, whatever. And then that fucker come back, and he was waiting for me at the entrance with the picture of me and him, so he could show me the picture of me and him. So that's dedication. The way I figure it, is if you come to my show and you want to show me a picture of me and you, and I'm a dick, and you come to my next show the following weekend, a social obligation is that I then have to look at the most current picture and the one from way back then, and of course the one from that very same night. So that was the exciting adventures of Mrs. Comet going to Bull Barn Theater. I don't know if you can hear Mary. I don't know if you can hear her crying, but what is going on here is that her kitty litter box is upstairs, and she hates going upstairs because she spent 10 years up there while our beloved cockatiel was downstairs. Shout out to Sparky. We sure miss her in these live streams. So since Mary's been able to come down, she really doesn't like going up at all. And so when she has to go up to the kitty litter and comes down, we hear about it. She's crying. It was horrible. I went up there. I didn't want to go up, and nobody came up with me. And sometimes the bearded man, he comes to the bathroom when I go, but this time I went by myself, and now I'm back, and I'm expecting some sort of reward, I guess, would be the thing. So Mary is crying when she has to go to the bathroom, and that's kind of like a human trait. That's how we really don't, when you have to go to the bathroom and you're comfortable watching TV, we've all said it. Someone will say, can I get you anything? Can you go to the bathroom for me? It's a stupid fucking thing, but we all say it. And Mary was just now complaining about that. So that's some exciting stuff right there. I live streamed since the Scrapple shoot. I don't know if I have, but I if I haven't live streamed since the Scrapple shoot, Crenshaw plot up some shit, and we went down to Crenshaw's barn and filmed some stuff he's going to present to the Maui sitcom. Apparently, I am, in fact, the Scrapple King. So I'm not actually invited to go to Maui yet, but I'm going to be on TV in the sitcom series that's in Maui. Those peckerheads that seem pretty cool and fun will be watching me on their TV in the show doing like a Scrapple King commercial. So, that's it right there. It is. Mrs. Comic is on it. Right there it is. Scrapple King. And great minds think alike. Let's see here if I got this. Let's see if I did it. There it is. ScrappleDirect.com. And that was really fun to film. And we're back starting soon. Here we go. So that was a lot of fun, and he actually Crenshaw brought in some actual film people to film me at his house barn. And so I made some notes, but the guy who was filming got a little panicky because he wanted to see a script, and he said maybe I'd have a better feel for how to set this up if I saw a script. And then I laughed. I'm like, he's serious. You didn't tell him there's no script. I didn't have a script. We were just making dumb shit up. So that was a lot of fun. And then Crenshaw and I went shopping for hay together, which we don't do often enough. So that was a lot of fun. And then he bought me a gift. Now, let's see. I should have got this thing more ready. So there you go. For Mrs. Comic's birthday, I'm going to show you a gift that Crenshaw bought me. So now, then we went shopping for hay, and we had not yet shot the Scrapple commercial. We had this. Crenshaw got me this little stuffed animal pig, and we didn't know what we were going to do with it. And then so I was doing all Scrapple King stuff. I was kind of going for the badass Godfather thing, and then I just wound up petting this thing at the end of it, which apparently was very funny, and I don't understand why it was, but the cameraman laughed, and somebody else laughed, and I didn't. Once again, 30 plus years in stand-up comedy, and I don't know what's funny, but me petting this pig after I threatened everybody that I'm the Godfather of Scrapple apparently was funny. So then the other funny thing that happened is actually have to put this back. It'll be fine here now. Crenshaw said, don't lose this pig because it is now established in other scenes. So that could be a thing where if I make it to Maui and I don't have the pig, like, where's the Scrapple King, man? He doesn't have his pig. So there's that. And the punchline to me being the Scrapple King is that I have been now vegetarian for like 3 years. So we didn't put that in the commercial, but so I'm very excited about that. That was a fun project, and who knows what's ever going to happen there. That's I should know what the name is. Let's see if I have it here. Hang on. That's that. I might have taken out. It's. I'm gonna say the wrong thing and I'll be embarrassed. I think it's Moku Moku. I think is what it is. Moku Moku. So I'm very excited about that. And I could have got free Scrapple, but I didn't really want it, and they forgot to offer it to me. So that was a happy accident if you think about it. So there's that. Let's see here. I'm way behind on writing my book because I'm making money, for crying out loud. It's really difficult to stop what I'm doing to sit down and write, but I'm still making notes, and I'm going to get back into that sucker. But booking work it's full time thing to do it, and when things come through and there's shit I got to do and write it up and post it up and put the social media things and all that stuff. My contract is sewn up pretty good right now, and still I have people who. The one good thing is the last person, they seem like they don't care about the sound system is the problem. So I have to tighten up my wording about the sound system, because if you've been to any weddings or any kind of place where they have to make an announcement, I'm gonna find these people. It's a box this big, it has a light on it, and a little Mr. Microphone, and they suck. They sound like shit, and you can't fill a big room. And people in my contract will say you have a sound system. They'll say yes, and there'll be 200 people in the room in this little box where the people in the front couple rows can hear, but people in the back they can't hear. And then drunk people tend to talk loud because they can't hear me, and who could blame them? So I had a couple of issues with shitty sound systems. But the fun thing is about the Bull Barn Playhouse was uh, they had no heat, right? And I thought they had heat, and they had really no indoor plumbing, and we thought they had toilets, and they didn't. And technically, they sort of almost had no electric, because they didn't really have a sound system. They had, the people were so nice. The theater volunteers, they played electric Amish for me. It's like the poor man's Amish Outlaws, and like one song was funny, but like 19 of them in a row was up a little too loud, and then we were getting ready to put me on stage. I'm there. So where is my sound system? And he goes, well, that's what we used to play this CD with. Yes, but now we need to use that to play me with. And he goes, oh, we don't have one for you. We had one, but it got stolen. So the Bull Barn Playhouse, which I am now calling the Cold Barn Show, had no electric, no sound system, no indoor plumbing. It was a barn, and was actually probably the most Amish space I've performed in since walking off the farm.
It was gorgeous.
It was gorgeous. I'd like to do it again, but I need to book a show out there in the winter, and it's not going to be that one. So there's that. I hope everyone's doing good. This was supposed to be on Mrs. Comic's birthday show. Oh, I know. I actually had an idea before her birthday show. Actually, the Cold Barn show made me think of, I actually put in my notebook here, I should do a live stream show with the theme Mrs. Amish Comic. Mrs. Comic came along, because it's been this way forever. I know when to bring her along, usually, not always, usually. And every so often I take her to comedy clubs. She came along to Florida, and the guy who ran those clubs is like, I kind of love him, but he's a dirtbag. I just know him from comedy. I won't even say who he is. So when he met Mrs. Comic, and then a different tour that she came along with, a different show, different place, different person, and not quite as much of a dirtbag as that dirtbag, who I also know forever, who books comedy. Both of them said to her very cleverly, oh, you can do better than him. They both said the same thing, and that and what it's probably true, but that's not really. If you're gonna say something really fucking stupid, and then someone else would say the same fucking stupid thing, you need to get a better fucking stupid thing to say. That's the point there. At least come up with something original, for crying out loud. So she came along to shows, and fun stuff has happened over the years. I've told a bunch of these stories in Lancaster. 3 o'clock in the morning, they had given our room away to tourists. So senior citizen couple came in at 3 o'clock in the morning, and Mrs. Comic and I were in bed sleeping, apparently, which is good because they just came in. And I woke up, and I'm not quite sure this is the kind of thing that you might think you're dreaming. And the door was open, and I could see the silhouette of an old man and an old lady holding bags, and they were saying, "There's someone in the bed." And I said, "Close the fucking door." I didn't even care if they came in or went out in the hallway. And they said, there's, and they pretend like they didn't hear me. There's actually someone in our room. I said, it's actually our room. And please, I will ask you again, close the fucking door. Contrary to what it says in the travel brochure, each hotel room here in Lancaster does not come with a complimentary Amishman and his Mrs. Amish Comic. Close the fucking door. So that was for the start of all the fun, crazy shit. And now we're going back. Our daughter's all grown up, but when she was teeny tiny little, she probably couldn't have been more. She probably wasn't 2 years old yet. And uh, what would decide if they would come along then was if it was a cool place. So we were doing comedy. I was doing comedy at the Woodlands in Wilkes-Barre area, Poconos. At the time, it was a kind of a gorgeous hotel. And I thought, well, they just come along, we'll be in a nice hotel room. So the dirtbag number one from Florida was the same dirtbag from this up there. And when I checked in, it's me and the lovely Mrs. Comic and our adorable little daughter that I could hold. Couldn't have been more than 2 years old. The man said, well, we don't have a room for you. And I'm like, okay, get him on. Get him on. I know he's here. Get him on the phone. And he said to me on the phone, I said, wow, where's my room? Where is my hotel room? He said, you called me up and said you don't need a room. And I said, I'm pretty fucking stupid, but I'm not so far stupid that I would call you up and give my hotel room away and bring my wife and our little baby girl along. I know I'm not that fucking stupid. So he argued with me, and of course I wasn't gonna get my room back. The hotel guy felt bad, and he figured out a way to get us a room. So there began a start of more fun road horrors there, um, and a punchline to Lancaster was that as the years unfolded, Mrs. Comic and her daughter got older. It was fun for them to come to Lancaster to shop the outlets, and then our niece came along, and when they when they mock someone, they call them Bob. I don't know why. It's like you wouldn't want to be called Bob, and I didn't know this. I had no idea of this. Didn't want to be called Bob, and so the room was really cold, and then the guy who runs that place down there, his name was actually Bob. And when I came in, and I said, "Oh, it's cold, but don't worry. Bob is bringing you heaters." And then they laughed, and they thought I was mocking them because I wasn't in on the Bob thing. And that's not really that funny of a story, but there you have it. There was also the Lancaster comedy clubs uh, bounced around from one. It used to be an Italian restaurant, Italian Villa East, and that's where I made money, and that's where they packed them in, and that's where there'd be 200 people for the early show, 200 people for the late show. And I made a metric fuck ton of money down there, and then I think the guy was married to that hotel, but by his wife, and then they sold it so they didn't have a place to have the comedy club. So then they moved across the street to the Lancaster Host Resort, which was a gorgeous facility in its day. A beautiful uh, old Las Vegas style theater with the different levels that go up and the nice tables and the stage and the curtains and all that shit. And but they let that place go to shit. And there were warning signs. There was an ice machine, and the ice machine said, temporarily out of service for ice, please go to the bar. Now, the ink faded on that sign over the years to the point where we knew they weren't ever going to get it fixed because they didn't have any fucking printer ink. So then that hotel wound up, a couple shows got canceled there because one time the air conditioner broke and it was the middle of summer. Then another time in the winter, the yin and the yang, the heat broke. So then it was too fucking cold. As it turns out, Bull Barn Cold Show, we could have had that in Lancaster. That would have been fine. So, so that went from every hotel was worse than the one before it. And I think that's how, when you trying to talk a hotel into hosting a comedy club, you want the room for free. That's what you want. That's how you pitch it. You give us the room, and we will bring you an audience, and they'll spend money on food and alcohol. But here's the rub: if the place is in a shithole, people don't want to show up. Now it moved to one of the scariest hotels, and I don't even remember names, but I would get a room, and Mrs. Comic came along, and Mrs. Comic said, I don't really trust that elevator. Well, I don't really need to go to the room. I have, we can just fucking go home. It's an hour and 15 minutes, whatever. So the next night I did the show, and then we went home, and we came back, both of us, next night, and there was a sign on the elevator that said, out of order. So Mrs. Comic called it, saved me from a death or being trapped in that fucking elevator. And also there was a basketball going on. Maybe it was this time of year, a big basketball event going on in Lancaster, and there was a basketball team. If you haven't ever seen a basketball team, they're all tall, and there's more than 5 of them because there's 10, 12. I don't know how many. However many tall people make up a basketball team, that's who was at the counter yelling at the man saying, we are not staying in this shithole and we would like our money back. That's not a great selling point at the entrance to the comedy club with people in line and the basketball team cursing that they they knew not to go on the fucking elevator. So then that place shut down, and I because it got condemned. If something, it flunked something, and then I'm new at this condemning hotels and shit. So when it was shut down, they actually posted the violations on it, whatever the hell's wrong, and then you have so many days to get that shit fixed, and then they come back and they check it out, and then you're good to go. So I had a show there that we had to move, which sucks batshit balls, and we kept moving it because the couldn't get inspection. And then I'm there, well, and I didn't know any of this. I'm like, why do we have to keep moving this? He said, well, because the guy has this electrical shit that's wrong, and some other shit's wrong, and he actually called me up to see if I knew anybody who could fix the electric. So that place got fucking further down, further down, further down, and it never actually reopened. It was close, and then it fucking flunked, and then that was it. And then they moved to like an Elks Lodge in Lancaster, and the running joke by then was Mrs. Comic had come along, and I said, this comedy club that I'm working for is a ghost, and it condemns hotels and other things, and so this place is days are probably numbered because the virtue of me being there for the comedy club, this place is something's gonna fucking fail. And as I was saying this to Mrs. Comic, and we went into my green room, there was uh, there was an empty ballroom, and there was an aisle this way to go to bathrooms, an aisle that way, and there was where I could hide. And there was a giant bucket, a garbage can with water dripping from the ceiling, in hopes that someday it would fill up enough to close that fucking comedy club down. So Mrs. Comic came along to that one. That was fun. Then she came along to I think it was a VFW in, was that Virginia, West Virginia.
West Virginia.
We had so much fun, and that was another one of those things where after that trip, she wasn't going to come along for a little while because uh, they were so nice, but drunk hillbillies were all over my wife, but not in a gropey kind of way, just in a drunken way. You know, drunken guys, they grab each other and I love you, little fucker. That's what they were doing. They were trying to explain to my wife because she didn't understand that I was funny. You don't understand. You don't understand. He's funny. And she was like, I know. So how do you prepare an answer for that? So there was that one. There had to be more. That can't be the worst thing that's ever happened to us on a show. See here. I'll make some notes here. So hope everybody's doing good. You're probably wondering what we have planned for Mrs. Comic's birthday. Nothing. Just not. I'm not streaming.
We're going plant.
Oh, we're going plant shopping tomorrow. So
we're gonna get a nice dinner.
We're gonna get a nice dinner. So we are doing stuff. I got corrected. Which not like why I say nothing. Here's why I say nothing. Pre-pandemic, Mrs. Comic had accidental great luck because when stuff comes around in the world for us to see, Iggy Pop, Philip Glass, Sparks, whoever it is, whatever the thing is that we love, Broadway shows, yeah, and they land on or around anyone's birthday, that automatically becomes that person's birthday present. And Mrs. Comic was on a fucking roll of hitting shows. We saw One Man, Two Governors, and that has James Corden, British guy. The play was so funny. It was hilarious. Mrs. Comic is a victim of theater bathrooms where there's only 2 stalls and there's 1,500 people in there, half of them women that got to use them 2 stalls. So she cleverly goes to make a wee-wee before the show. So now, on this particular show, when she came back to her seats, there was an awesome band playing on stage. And so it was kind of a surprise because they weren't there when we came in. And then when she came in, the band was like playing her back to her seat. So they were a lot of fun. The Craze, I think they are. That's great music. I got to drop the link for the Craze. So that was a good one. And then we saw, I have to get the right information here. It was a play about the Scopes monkey trial. There were 2 old amazing geezers in this, famous people. Let's see what this Scopes. It wasn't called that. Scopes. This is an exciting show. I'm Googling something. Scopes monkey trial. I bet it'll come up like this. Hang on. Trial. Oh. Fat finger. Oh, now that's a U and I need an I. Broadway. Let's see here. Inherit the Wind. Okay, so now what was exciting about Inherit the Wind was 2 really incredible people were in this cast. I gotta make sure I get the right one. Let's see. I'll be a son of a bitch. So I have the old one here. I have the one from 1955. So we need to get the new one. Cast of characters. Let's see, as over the years. Let's see, original. We don't want the original. Okay, Inherit the Wind. Broadway. Let's make a guess at the year. Where can you get live entertainment like this? Okay, what's it called? Revival. That's what Survival and okay, there it is. Now we move up to 2007, and we got to see. Check this shit out. In this play, Brian Dennehy and the other guy, Christopher Plummer. And it's a courtroom drama. That's what it was. And when you pay money to see something like that, you pay to see the people that are in it. And I got hail from an old lady usher because we walk in. First thing we do when there's celebrities on the show, you look to see if there's any uh, understudies. Because I mean, hell, these two geezers, and I don't know. Let's see, Broadway runs about 8 shows a week. 10. That's a fucking tough schedule. Some are 2 a day, matinee and a night show. And I'm looking up, and I said, "Oh my God." My heart skipped a beat because I thought there would be an understudy. And then the lady said to me, she goes, "Are you out of your mind? These two crazy old bastards would die on stage before they'd let an understudy take their place. It's like a geezer pride thing." So there was no way in hell. And we got to be jury. So we were actually on stage, and Christopher Plummer was right there, and Brian Dennehy was right there, and Mrs. Comic wasn't on stage yet because she went to the bathroom. And when she was coming back on the bathroom, the band from this show was on stage playing, so she got played onto her seat to inherit the wind. So that was an exciting experience. And then years later, we went to see Philip Glass doing the ensemble played for an old black and white movie, Beauty and the Beast, and they tricked her and said we were up in the balconies and we were down in the fucking front row, second row, where the hell we were. And they tricked her. We didn't tell her. We just walked down. She was starting to go up the steps. I'm like, "No, we're going down this way." And we kept going down further, and so we got where we were going. She was almost screaming because, like, she probably thought I was fucking nuts. You can't just keep walking up onto the stage. You know, whether we're sitting right here. So when I said we're not doing anything for her birthday, that's what I meant. We're not doing anything like going to see Christopher Plummer and Brian Dennehy, but we'll do normal birthday fun stuff. So there's that. And let's see what else is going on here. That's pretty much it. But it's so busy. I don't have any exciting other fun stories to tell you.
Taking care of Daisy this week.
Taking care of Daisy this week, the dog that is now trending in my show, the 90-pound linebacker who still thinks it's a puppy. And it's a little nuts too because it goes different levels of behaving or not behaving. And Mrs. Comic goes in the early morning because I'm a lazy ass and I sleep in. The last couple, 2, 3 Daisy times, Daisy pulled shit off in the morning while Mrs. Comic's there. She comes home already and has a story to tell. Daisy got off the rope and it got tangled in the playground, and a stranger was going to help her, but they didn't know what was going on. So then they called the cops, and then the cops came. Mrs. Comic was getting Daisy untangled. I had to explain this to the police and the police report. And see, what's amazing about us is, see, we will watch your pets and we will not ruin your vacation. We won't say anything until you're back. Now, Daisy got off this, it's one of those yard leash lines, and you hook the short leash to it, and then it can run, zoop across the yard. It's a nice area for it to run. And Daisy kept getting off this fucking thing. So the last time I went and spent $30 of your kind donations on a heavy duty rope that's gauged for mountain climbing or whatever the hell it is. Oh, that's my alarm. It says my show's over, but it's not really over. It's not the boss of me. So I got this thing and I put it up, and the rope that was up sucked batshit balls. That it was new, but the dog could actually, if you use any kind of wash line rope, there's rope that's rated for like climbing, and there's rope that's rated for just hanging Christmas balls on it. But it looks good on the outside. On the inside, it's pretty much cotton, and that's what he had, shitty cotton rope. And Daisy would make a plan to go outside and run as far away as she could and hide behind a bush and bite one or two chomps, and she'd be fucking through. She'd be done. And the reason we know this is Mrs. Comic suspected that. Also, there's little pieces of rope out there. Also, when we put the new rope up, Daisy didn't even, she smart enough to know she couldn't bite through this rope, so she didn't even fucking run to her bush. She just sat there like, well, this isn't any fun now. Son of a bitch bastard. And then, so then we got a little communication breakdown. We thought we had to go feed Daisy one more time. And then we went over there, and Daisy's, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law were just getting back. So they were in the driveway when we were there to feed Daisy, and they were home, so we didn't have to fucking do it. And then I got to showboat my new rope, which I had just put up, and they were appreciative, but they seemed really suspicious. They said, well, there wasn't really anything wrong with the rope she had, and she hardly ever gets off the rope. Well, that's a lie, because we don't really report most of the incidents, because there's no point in ruining your vacation when you're out visiting your daughter and your grandchildren. You really don't want a text message that says Daisy chewed through her rope and tied herself up at the playground, and then a man thought Silence of the Lambs killer was there, so he called the police, and Mrs. Comic had to fill out a police report. So we don't really report most of those, because we figured, what the fuck you gonna do? There's not gonna do anything about it except worry. So the new rope's holding up good, right? And I think we have to visit Daisy tonight yet, so that's why we can't get all fucking hammered and shit. But we're gonna get hammered later on tonight.
Well, you can't.
What?
You can't.
Oh, I can't. Mrs. Comic is having a glass of wine. That means I'm driving to take the dog out for a pee. That's fantastic right there. All right. Let's see here. I got some more stories to tell. Oh. I think I already told that story. Never mind. I did. The PG-13 show. I must have told them about that. Let's see here. We are, Mrs. Comic and I, we sometimes run out of stuff to watch. I'm way behind on my reading. I got hooked on old Perry Masons. They stream somewhere. If you have a chance to see old Perry Mason, to go check them out. It's absolutely incredible. It's like Criminal Minds with no special effects whatsoever. They solve everything in a fucking courtroom for the most part, and Perry Mason breaks them down at the end, and they almost cry, and they confess, and it's always murder over a woman or money, and they always say the same thing. You see, I was going to inherit all this money, and then she went and married him, and then she got first dibs on the money, so I had to kill her. I just had to. They always say they had to kill her. And so we're having some fun with Perry Mason. Their objections are bizarre. I don't know specifically what they are, but how the Trolls in My Idea hallway break those down is basically that objection, Your Honor. That is what's the first objection they do? That is irrelevant, stupid, concocted, and it hurts my feelings, and I wish you wouldn't say it. But that's how the thing happens. And then sometimes the judge goes, I agree with you 100%, but I'm actually a little curious as to where Perry Mason is going with this thing. And they don't have a gavel. I don't know why. When the judge has a pen and he goes, that's not order in the court. I'm smashing my pen down. Don't make me smash it down again. Well, what the fuck? And they also always think Perry Mason is the suspect. And he's the only one that solves the fucking case. The other guy, he's like the team that plays the Harlem Globetrotters of lawyers. He loses every fucking case. Perry Mason is always in the room with the body first. So when the cops get there, he is now a suspect. It's just quite magical television. and you want to see that. They also all kept their guns in their glove compartment of their cars. When the first time I heard it, I'd there. That's weird. Well, where was the gun? It was in my glove compartment. That's a weird place. And then, like every episode, they kept their guns in the glove compartment, and they didn't lock their doors of their car. So that makes it more fun for the police investigation because it's in a car that's unlocked, and the gun is in there, and anybody could have taken the gun out in the car for a cruise, murdered the person, and then come back and swap the guns out and the bodies. And that's quite ridiculous, but it must have been a thing of the times that that's where you kept your gun in the glove box. So that's some good fun there. So we're watching that. Um, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. Let's see here.
What else are we watching? The Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh yeah. That's there's a
Succession also.
Succession. We've been watching that. There's a new season of that. Check that out if you haven't seen that. There's a Kiefer Sutherland show called Rabbit Hole. And what we do is, Mrs. Comic and I, we'll find a series and we'll either love it and watch it in like one or two sittings, or we won't watch it. It's stupid. So we got hooked on this one. This is it's like it has a kind of a feel Kiefer Sutherland of the old 24 series, except it's digital crime, information crime, action shit, and we've got 3 episodes, which is really for us that's the start of a 6 episode night, and then, boom, he fucking shut off. It's current now. So we don't like to watch shows that are current because we need to have closure. We need to go 7 episodes and the finale. We need to know, even when we're watching it, Mrs. Comic, I love her with all my heart, but we have fun watching this stuff. She will say quite seriously, she will go, how many episodes are this? And then I will look, because if we're on 4 and there's 8, we got to know we're halfway there. If we're on 4 and there's 5, then we know there's that. Well, we didn't check this one, so we get to 3, and fucking 4 is probably just happening this weekend. So that's an exciting thing for us to check. That would be a thing that we could consider I'm getting for your birthday is a new episode of Rabbit Hole. So Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo there. And all right, now here. Oh. This is a dumb story, but so Mary is spoiled rotten with her food. She has good food. And she's an older canon, so she gets this from me from my chicken tikka masala days at the buffet and Shady Maple days. I don't know when I'm full, and I'll just eat to total destruction and physical pain. And the cat's that way too. So Mary has to get stuff in increments, right? So if I get a little can of food, I will serve it. I'm pretty awesome. I will painstakingly serve her like maybe a third of this can on a plate and push it out around so she doesn't inhale it and just shoot it right back out. So where I put it, the can is on top of a recycling bucket. Now wait a minute. Alexa, stop. Or it might be my phone. It's my phone. I just yelled, Alexa, I apologize because I didn't realize it was my phone alarm and not you. So where I put Mary's 2/3 of can left in the can while the third is on the plate, it's on top of the recycle bucket, and I have to put it in a plastic bag and another plastic bag, and it sits up there. Right? She knows that now, and often goes up there and figured out a way to peel off one bag and peel off the other bag and just eat politely on top of the recycle bucket. So I got to watch for that system. So now when I left the Geezer breakfast PG-13 show where I didn't say any F-bombs, they packed, the people were so nice that I'm not like I'm complaining. It was a volunteer thing and they put together. They sent me home with like a lunch you would send a kid to school with if the kid was a 90-year-old man, and that you packed a lunch for a 90-year-old man. Plus, I'm vegetarian, right? So it was very nice of them, and it was all homemade stuff. And there was hardly nothing vegetarian in this thing. I didn't feel quite right about just throwing it in the garbage, so I set it on the recycle bucket. And I had just served Mary a teeny little something else, and Mrs. Comic saw something on the floor out there and was screaming. And I thought Mary inhaled the food and threw it up. And so I was screaming because I didn't want to clean up the cat throw up. And I walked out and I looked at this thing on the floor and I knew right what it was. Mary opened up the old man geezer school lunch and made herself a Lebanon bologna and cheese sandwich and threw it all around the floor. So, hooray for Mary. Mary got the geezer leftovers, made herself a Lebanon bologna sandwich, and that might have been one of those stories that you had to be there. Um, I know what else we watched. Back to TV. Um, be warned, because the serial killer shows, we've seen them all. We've seen Zodiac Killer. We've seen the Times Square torso killer, of which I keep looking for myself up there on 42nd Street. We've seen them all. Jack the Ripper, the Green River Killer, H.H. Holmes, Chicago World's Fair Killer. So we've seen them all. And they've all been done a couple of times. So somebody figured out a new way to do these shows. And it's really fucking brilliant. And the one we just saw, it starts out where the guy goes, well, we're going to be investigating H.H. Holmes, the Chicago World's Fair serial killer, and I have a theory that H.H. Holmes is also Jack the Ripper. So my show that you're watching is going to be us on this journey trying to see if H.H. Holmes is in fact Jack the Ripper. And oh, by the way, he's my great great grandfather. So, and he's real happy about it. He's very happy that his great great grandfather is H.H. Holmes, the famous serial killer, and he seemed genuinely excited that he could also be the great great grandson of Jack the Ripper. So as he's unfolding and watching this shit, you can see how excited he is. So, is that blood match mine? So great great grandpappy is actually Jack the Ripper and H.H. Holmes, the murder killer? And they go, no, it's not really a match. It's the DNA doesn't match. And he'd be like, oh fuck. See, it's bizarre to watch somebody really disappointed that they're not the great great grandson of Jack the Ripper, H.H. Holmes. So check those out. But know that when you're watching these things, if there was any new information, you would know about it. You wouldn't just fucking find out. Which prompted me to wonder if when they reopen these cases like H.H. Holmes and Jack the Ripper, do the cops just go, oh, there's a new series on Hulu about H.H. Holmes and Jack the Ripper. Do they just watch it and skip to the final episode to see if there's anybody they should be talking to? Or do they sit through and watch it and then they get to the end and they go, well, there's no conclusive proof that this man is the great great grandson of Jack the Ripper, and go, son of a bitch, I fucking knew it. So those are fun, but brace yourself for them not figuring out that their father is actually the abominable snowman because they couldn't quite get a DNA match. So we have that. It's a lot of fun to watch. Um, let's see. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing good. Richter's in the house there. I see everybody's in the house. It's my team is in this. Oh, I want to talk about this. So, seemingly, for Mrs. Comic's birthday eve stream, seemingly she would be on this show with me. But Mrs. Comic is not me. That would not be her idea of fun, even though she loves all of you. She loves you from a safer distance where she's not in this thing that I'm in. So, and we're not just going to flip her into the live stream, but what we might do is set a goal. Like if we can get Unshunned over on Patreon to get like 100 Unshunned, Mrs. Comic will join me in a live stream. Now, before you get too excited about that, we've had like 18 people in the Unshun for about a year now. We're holding steady at like 18, and then sometimes we drop to 17, and then we go up to 19. But for the most part, we're about solid 82 away from 100. And at the pace, 2 years to get 18, it's probably going to be a pretty long while before she makes it onto the show because we hit 100 subscribers. So there's that. Burst your bubble right there. Going through my notes here. Let's see. Bibbity bobbity boo. Alright. Mostly I got notes about shit that I'm supposed to do rewrites on. I gotta do a rewrite on bachelor parties and bachelorette parties. So I might as well run that past you, Peckerheads, right now. Is that when it's an old bit, but it needs a rewrite. So the old bit, as far as I can remember, it was when it's the bachelor party, you can't really tell who the the groom is. You can't tell which of them peckerheads is getting married because guys that hang out together mostly all look like each other. It would be, you've seen the man bachelor party out there at the bar. It's 9 guys with same pants and same shirt and same haircuts. They must go shop together and buy a dozen of a thing and then or a club. But now when it's a bachelorette party, you can spot the bride to be in the blink of an eye because she will be the one with Christmas lights on her knockers and the flashing penis shaped Elton John sunglasses. So you know that that's the party you want to be with right there. So that's going to need a rewrite. I'll test that out on you folks here. And I'm also, before I wrap things up here, I'm going to have to find a new night to stream on. With a busy schedule, Friday and Saturday become brutal. I'm off this weekend. So that's why we're streaming tonight. Woohoo! But I'm going to have to pick a night, so maybe on Patreon you can vote for a night. And it's going to be, Richter will say, well, I can't do it Thursday night. And Clee's sister say, well, I can't do it Wednesday night. And then so we'll have to have a big, we want to make sure we can get everybody in here. Let's see here. That's bibbity bobbity boo. Let's see. I don't want to miss anything here. What? No, that ain't nothing. Not that. There's nothing. That's pretty much it. That's it. That's all I got. I don't have any exciting stories. Well, I must be missing something.
Probably.
As soon as we hang this thing up, that's when we're going to remember shit.
Yeah.
So I don't really have anything all that exciting to say. It's
Thank you, everybody.
good one, Mrs. Comic over there coming in. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I want to stream more. I want to get back to writing my book. Take care of yourselves and don't be a dick out in the world. That's my new message when I'm out touring around. Don't be a dick to people. It's a lot of fun, but for the most part, if you can make anybody's life a teeny little bit easier, great. Or sometimes better do nothing. So
I said, Amy G, that you liked your thing.
oh yes, Amy G. Oh, he liked his thing. Don't worry about that. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So he's gonna like his thing later on tonight as well. So there's that going on. That's it. I got nothing else. I'm very excited to be working again. I'm trying to do a lot of shit, and I do have to get writing my book again. If I didn't have to sleep, that would be optimum right now. So take care of yourselves. Happy birthday, Mrs. Comic. You have fans. It's always nice for me when I go to a show and people are disappointed she's not there. They don't really give a shit. One of these days, someone's going to just leave. There's Mrs. Comic here. No. Well, all right. We've seen you before. We want to see her, so we're going. Kevin Keller was close at the cat show to leaving because Mrs. Comic wasn't there. I know what goes on here. I absolutely know. So thanks for tuning in. Happy birthday, Mrs. Comic. We will stream back to you as soon as we can. I also have some show footage that I got to edit a little bit. I'll drop some of that on Patreon. And that's it. That's it.
Love you all.
We love you all. And we are going to go let Daisy out to pee. And hopefully she will not create an adventure for us this evening that I have to solve because Mrs. Comic had some wine. There you have it. We're signing off. Here we go. We love you. Where's this thing? The thing that says ending soon. Where is it? Oh, I put it at the top. That's a fucking stupid place to put it. Right there. Stream ending right there. There it is. Signing off. And happy birthday.